As you have seen that we can run PySpark code as it is in Glue, it substantiates the fact that Glue uses Spark underneath. So Glue is a wrapper on top of Spark. Whenever we write Glue APIs, if we choose to, then Glue will convert them into Spark RDDs, and then the execution would happen on the Glue cluster. Reason I am addressing it as a Glue cluster because eventually it's a group of servers with one driver node and multiple executor nodes in a serverless way. So let's talk about some of the Glue APIs. And I think I told you at the beginning itself that Glue APIs are very different than Spark APIs. The Glue APIs are inspired from Spark RDD APIs, and it has integration with AWS services like Glue Catalog and others. And the syntax is completely different. There might be a steep learning curve for Glue APIs also. So that's why if you ask me whether I recommend you to learn Glue API or not, my answer would be no, you should not learn Glue API. If you want, you can use the visual ETL or the no code platform of Glue and do a simple level transformation. If you have complex transformations and have to implement complex business logic on Glue, you can use PySpark. But of course, it does not make sense that I say that Glue APIs are complex without even introducing you to these APIs. So let's talk about the Glue APIs, and the discussion starts with something called dynamic frame. In Glue, if you use Glue API instead of PySpark or Scala, we'll not be creating a data frame, we'll be creating something called dynamic frame. Dynamic frame is essentially an implementation of RDD, not even data frame. It's an implementation of RDD which you have already seen in the Spark UI because dynamic frames were getting created from RDDs. So this is the first construct and it is similar to Spark's data frame. If we want, we can convert a dynamic frame to data frame, or we can use a data frame and convert it to dynamic frame. What are the reasons that you'd like to convert one to the other? So if you have data frames and if you want to use Glue APIs in between, you can convert them to dynamic frame and then use the Glue APIs with the dynamic frame. But if you have a dynamic frame, let's say you have created a dynamic frame using Glue API and you want to perform Spark data frame operations or data frame APIs, then you'll have to convert the dynamic frame to a data frame. If you want to convert a data frame to a dynamic frame, then you'll use the fromdf command or the fromdf API. And if you want to convert a dynamic frame to a data frame, you'll use the toDF API. You can use these two APIs to convert them from each other within the script itself. In data frame, we have dataframe.print schema. We can do the same with dynamic frame also using dynamic frame.schema. It will give you or it will show you the schema of the dynamic frame. Then you have dynamic frame APIs or Glue APIs like apply mappings, select fields, drop fields, filter, join, map. If you know the construct of Spark RDD, you'd see that it matches a lot with the Spark RDD APIs. We have map API in RDD. We have flat map API in RDD. In fact, we have flat map in Glue also. There are select, filter, join. These are there in Spark RDD also. And of course, these are there in data frame also. But Glue APIs mostly implement the RDD APIs. For example, apply mapping is used to convert one dynamic frame to another dynamic frame using some mapping functions, just like Lambda functions in Spark RDD. Select fields are used to select only a few fields. Similarly, drop fields are used to drop a particular fields. Same as filter, which is used to filter out a number of rows. Then you have join and then you have map. There are some additional APIs that Glue provides. For example, merge dynamic frame. It can be used to merge multiple dynamic frames. It is similar to SQL merge statement, which is a mixture of update and insert. Then you have split rows, which is not there in either data frame or RDD. Glue provides this split rows API, which can be used to split number of rows from one dynamic frame into a new dynamic frame. So this is another API. For example, let's say you want to split based on financial year, which is equal to 2025, then the rows would be split as per the financial year. Now you see the syntax is something like this and it is not very intuitive. The Glue API syntax is not that user friendly, unlike Spark or unlike DataFrame, which are very much user friendly. There are other APIs like Unbox, Unnest, etc. So these are various APIs which are provided by Glue. And if you choose to learn Glue scripting, you can use these APIs. But my recommendation would be to use PySpark itself in Glue because you are already familiar with PySpark. So let's take an example and let's do an implementation of Glue API. What will I do is that we have multiple files in S3. I have created multiple folders like account, ledger, transaction, etc. And we have created tables based on these files in the Glue data catalog also. So we'll be using AWS Glue to read from the data catalog, which would create a dynamic frame from Glue data catalog, which is essentially an S3 object. Behind the scenes, AWS Glue will read the files which are available in S3 because Glue data catalog would contain the same information or the location of the files. So it would create a dynamic frame from the files which are available in S3, or else if we want, we can directly read the file without Glue data catalog. We can read them directly from S3. Now after that, let's say we perform some transformations and then we write the final dynamic frame to Glue data catalog, which is essentially a MySQL object in Aurora that we have already done. We have created multiple tables which are available in Aurora. So we'll use the dynamic frame to write to the MySQL object in Aurora using connection. So let's say the Aurora MySQL database is here, but if Glue has to write to this Aurora database and its corresponding tables, it has to use a data connection or a Glue connection. So Glue connection will connect to the Aurora MySQL database, and then AWS Glue will use this connection to write to the Aurora tables. First, let me go ahead and show you this using the data flow. And after that, we'll perform the same operations using PySpark on Glue itself.